the purpose of business to make a profit, and we lose sight of that.
We have a saying here at the office, we're proud to be profitable.
Yes.
Every business should be. Profit allows us to support ourselves, allows us to support others. 17% of the population ever starts business. Only 20% do it profitably. So if you look at your kindergarten class of 20 or 30 kids, that means one kid's pulling this off. And the other kids are looking for a good job with a good company. So if you're the one who started the company, by golly, you deserve to be profitable.
Yes.
But you need to be, because everyone else is looking for good jobs with a good business. That's what you provide.
Right.
You have to be profitable for them too.
Well, the top of the morning to you, and welcome to It's a Good Life. Very, very excited to expose you to a man today I think you're going to get a lot from. His name is Mike Michalowicz. He's a son of New Jersey, and he, like most of you listening out there today, he is an entrepreneur's entrepreneur, and he's been there, done that. He's seen the highs, he's seen the lows, sold several multi-million-dollar businesses, had the bull by the horns on more than one occasion, and has also experienced the great entrepreneurial drop. And as they say, it's not how far you fall, it's how high you bounce. And he's got a great personal story to share. He has a fantastic new book, and we try to expose you guys on a limited basis to books. We know you're a big book buying audience, but if you own a small business, I would say the first and best small business book I've ever read was The E-Myth Revisited.
Yeah.
And this one right here is now, in very short order, gotten into my top 5. It's called Profit First. And in a world we live in today, everybody's talking about purpose and this and that and the other, which, missions, we're all big on that. But this is about transforming your business from being a cash-eating monster to a money-making machine. And right now, you can do all the purpose stuff, My mother used to say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. If you want to do some good stuff with your business, do real well, make a boatload of money, and then give your time and your money and energy. And so this is Profit First. Mike, delighted to have you join us today. Thanks for making the time for us.
It's such a joy. I'm honored to be here, and I'm with you. E-Myth is a defining book in the entrepreneurial space.
Yes, well, he's a neighbor of ours right here in Carlsbad.
Michael is,
yeah. And this is where he wrote it, and we've had him on our show, of course. And but I think Profit First is, it's a good look at something that I think has been lost. Again, we're a very purpose-driven company. Impact and improve the lives of people is our mission. We unify about that. But it's very easy for people to forget that, the purpose of business to make a profit, and we lose sight of that. And in the world we live in today, I think a lot of people make an apology for it, Mike.
It kills me. We have a saying here at the office, we're proud to be profitable.
Yes.
Every business should be.
Yep.
And, my sense around it, Brian, is that profit is what keeps us in business.
Yeah.
It allows us to support ourselves. That's why we got into the business. It allows us to support others. Just an interesting statistic around this, and I think the source was a government study, the U.S., identified that 17% of the population ever starts a business, but only 20% do it profitably, sustainably. So most go out of business, they say, within 5 years or half.
Yeah.
The people that are still in business are the ones who are really struggling. They're just above water. They're actually in the worse spot than the people that gave up on it.
Yes.
Well, 20% times 17% is 3%. So if you look at your kindergarten class of 20 or 30 kids, that means one kid's pulling this off. And the other kids are looking for a good job with a good company. So if you're the one who started the company, by golly, you deserve to be profitable.
Yes.
But you need to be, because everyone else is looking for good jobs with a good business. That's what you provide.
Right.
You have to be profitable for them too.
And so many people have good intentions. They love to serve. They love to help. They love to give. The E-Myth Revisited was about a guy who loved to bake, and then almost went bankrupt to open up bakeries, right? So I think we don't want to withhold good from people. We must be profitable. Here's what I've told my company. We've been in business. We just celebrated our 29th anniversary. We've been profitable 28 out of the 29, which also included 4 mega real estate recessions. And what I tell people, if we're not profitable, you shouldn't listen to us. If we're not profitable, we've not earned the right to coach you. Our average client goes from 35,000 to 435,000. That's our number. Okay, and we've done this with tens of thousands of people. And oh, by the way, they say money won't buy you love. Well, it'll avoid a lot of hate. You know what I mean? So, Mike, I want to get into it. You have a fabulous story. If you're good with it, So many people today, they were on The Apprentice on Tuesday and they write their autobiography on Friday.
Yeah.
And, I know I've served on many boards and we all have these setback stories. I mean, every entrepreneur has, it's just the price of admission, to be honest with you. And so from the outside looking in, at 35 years of age, you kind of had it all figured out, right? You had the bull by the horns, you had a bunch of money, you were doing it great. And then shortly thereafter, some things go wrong and you hit rock bottom. And when you get the book, folks, and you get the Profit First book, you'll see the book is dedicated to his daughter and her piggy bank. And maybe you could dive in there and tell us a little bit about that whole story.
Yeah, so started a couple businesses, both in the tech services space. First one I exited with private equity. Second one was a Fortune 500 acquired a company. Which it sounds glorious for a resume, and it was. Like, I made a lot of money in those moments, but they were never profitable running them. I thought that, I need to pump and dump businesses. That's where you make money. So don't worry about how you operate it profitably or not. Just see if you can skirt by long enough and get it big and fat enough that someone wants to buy it. I also had this. So first of all, I was ignorant. Secondly, I was arrogant. After selling my second company, came out your way. I have family in Lanai. We got a home out there for a sabbatical. I remember going from Lahaina, Maui on the ferry boat across, just saying, I've arrived, watching the whales jump, and they're like, and was full of myself. So ignorance and arrogance is a bad combination. I became an angel investor, worst angel investor of all time. I call myself the angel of death in retrospect. Like, I know how to kill businesses. And I invested in business after business. It wasn't investments. I was throwing money at him, but my arrogance was, I'm here, we're going to make this work. And I couldn't, and we didn't. It took me 2 years to wipe out everything. And the defining moment in my life, which is now a gift, but the moment felt like a dagger through the heart. My accountant called me and said, I remember him saying, he goes, Mike, I can't believe I'm saying this to you. You've been one of our most successful clients and you need to declare bankruptcy immediately. The only alternative, by the way, was to liquidate my remaining assets, a home, some other assets, and I did. I don't think my creditors were responsible for my misuse of their funds. So I came home and told my family, I was sobbing because I'd been lying to them by omission. We're losing our home. We lost it 30 days later. All this stuff. And my daughter was 9 years old. She looks at me, as I'm crying, and it's tough. You and I, everyone listening, and we're providers for ourselves, for our families. And I can't do that one job. My daughter looks at me and goes, but Daddy, can I still go to horseback riding lessons? Contextually, it was $20 for a group session. Like 10 kids go, $20 a person. So it was $20 for a half-hour session. It was my daughter's favorite thing. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you just can't. And she ran away on her spindly legs. And I just felt like I'm the biggest scumbag on the planet. The daughter I have that I'm committed to providing for and protecting is running away from me. And I wanted to run away. But she wasn't running away. She ran to her bedroom to grab her piggy bank. And she ran back. I always get emotional. I've told this a million times. She ran back as fast as she could. She put it on the table and she goes, Daddy, I can pay our bills for us. And it's the deepest shame I have that I put my daughter in that situation, that I put us in that situation. That became the seed. And I went through depression for the next couple of years. I started to drink a lot. I barely drink now, but I was boozing. But during that period, I said, why do I suck at business? And I started to investigate everything about business. The reason I write all these books and all this stuff, I'm really trying to find the things I don't understand and fix them for me. It's a selfish endeavor. And if I find something that works for me, like Profit First, then I'm like, I'm going to put this in a book and share it with other folks. And I found a new method. What I found is the formula to profit that we're taught, the gap accounting system, which all accounting is based on, is wrong.
Right.
It's not financially wrong. It's behaviorally wrong. And therefore, it actually precludes us from being profitable.
Yeah. I just look, I love the transparency. And, you're talking about it was a tragedy and it was a gift. And we've all been there. You know what I mean? If you're a real entrepreneur, you're not an entrepreneur till you wrote a personal check to make payroll. it just, it all sounds so great. And I was a guest on some young people's podcast the other day and, just there, it's just everything's up and to the right and 10X and 20X. And I'm just like, that's not my experience. And Just a little sideways story for I think you'll appreciate. But I serve on this board. The emeritus chairman of the board is a billionaire, and he's of a brand you would know very well, and a wise man. So we're going around the room, and we have a couple of new board members join us, and this one guy, he's not said a word all meeting. The chairman's like, "Hey, we want to hear from everybody. What do you have to say?" And he finally goes, "Look, I shouldn't be here. I'm an imposter." He goes, "Right now, my business is a mess, and I'm probably going to have to liquidate it." And he goes, "I'm around successful businessmen and women on this board." And he goes, "I just have nothing to offer. And I apologize that I signed on to do this." And the chairman emeritus starts kind of laughing, kind of chuckling. To which this guy's initial response, like you when your daughter ran away, he started his face getting red and he's humiliated. And I won't mention his name, but he's a very famous guy. And he goes, "We've all been there." He said, "How about this?" He goes, "We don't have time to share all our business disasters, but how about share your biggest, funniest, biggest clanger you have?" And we went around the rest of the board meeting until we took a break. And every one of us, and I had a few to choose from. And,
I got many, yeah.
You know, and I had a chance to share it. Everybody shared. And this guy's sitting there, and he knows the power that's in that room. Yeah. The power that's in that room is the power of humility creates discovery. And so out of this is where you've become a student, and now your weakness has become your strength, and what you didn't know about business, by golly, you certainly do now. And so maybe you can talk to all of these entrepreneurs about the things you've learned, like this, whether it's the you know, basically from, if you're talking to someone today who's been there, or maybe he's in the midst of a difficult time right now, what's your best advice? What have you learned that you could share that would really help them?
I'll tell you how I navigated it, and I'll also tell you how to kind of pick it out in the ethos. So the how I navigated it was, ironically, a journal. So a friend of mine, I'm in an entrepreneurial community, and they said, "Have you been journaling about this?" So I'm like, you know, like writing like a gratitude journal, like I had a good day, even though I'm depressed. He's like, no. He goes, "Just write."
Such a New Jersey question, by the way.
I know,
what am I doing? What am I doing here?
What am I doing? He goes, "Just write." He goes, "Let the anger out." And he goes, "It's the cheapest form of therapy." And I needed cheap at that point. And my gosh, I was writing hateful words to God. Why me? Why do I deserve this? I'm a good guy.
Yeah.
And it was cathartic. I did it for years. And what I found is sometimes it gave me a minute of clarity where I could just not worry and start moving forward. And sometimes hours. It didn't last for long, but it lasted long enough to start getting one foot in front of the other. The other thing, just going back to your comment about the board, is fascinating, Brian. It reminds me of a parable or a story of how to pick out the people that are really doing it right and the people that are not. And it's a poker game. I play poker with some friends. The guy who's bluffing has the weakest hand. And what does he do? He blusters. He's like, I really got to stay in. You guys, he's trying to scare people off the board.
Right.
It's the guy with the strongest hand who plays meek. He's like, I don't know if I should stay. Right. Whatever. That's what I see in humanity. The people that have to show off are trying to fulfill something that's missing. It's the people I see like that are the most humble, that are honestly the most successful. It's an interesting perspective. I only realized that in recent years.
One of the things you brought up in Profit First that I think is just a fabulous thing, it just jumped off the page, is this whole Parkinson's law.
Oh, and I love that.
I wonder if you'd walk folks through that, because I just think it's a brilliant, brilliant concept.
I love behavioral theory. So Northcote Parkinson's his name. He's a behavioral therapist from the 1950s, studying human behavior, and sees this real interesting paradigm. We've been told the supply and demand curve. The more demand for something, the more people want something, the more supply will appear. If more people want my services, I'll do more services. It's economics 101. And just like what I did in Profit First, he said that's rarely the case. He said it's actually the reverse. He goes, supply more often dictates demand, meaning the more something's available, the more we consume.
Yeah.
A classic example is food. Yeah. The greater the serving of food put in front of me, I eat more. Thanksgiving, I eat a lot more than I do in my regular meals.
Right.
The more time I'm giving for something, it takes longer to complete. So what he argued is that if we control supply, it automatically reduces demand. So if we restrict supply, less demand. Plus, we become very innovative. We find ways to stretch. Well, the same works with money. What a lot of business owners know, over time, their income kind of wobbles, but it works its way up. Ironically or uncannily, the expenses move at the exact same rate, and it's very frustrating. That's actually Parkinson's law. More cash, more supply, the more consumption.
Yes.
So what we do with Profit First is when you generate revenue, from your very next deposit, every deposit forward, take a predetermined percentage as profit. It's the pay yourself first principle.
Yeah.
Hide it from your business. And now you're constraining cash supply to your business, which reduce supply, forces supply down and demand down. And then we become innovative. We think of ways to get by with less.
Yep.
That's what Parkinson's law is.
Well, brilliant stuff. And I'm going to get you to do your kind of elevator pitch on the whole Profit First in a minute here.
Sure.
But, the two things that came to my mind is two of my favorite all-time personal growth books. One is Acres of Diamonds, and one is The Richest Man of Babylon.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
Right, George Clayson. And a portion of all you earn is yours to keep, which is the pay yourself first principle. And, that was a series of articles written in the 1920s in the Denver Post that then became a book that sold. I mean, we personally they say that the Clayson Foundation says we, at our company, has promoted it for 25 years and have sold over 1 million copies they can attribute directly to us, because that's the book that made me a millionaire.
Such a good book.
But the other dynamic is Acres of Diamonds is there's a part of it in there where, Russell Conwell was familiar with all these great industrialists and all these great retailers at the time. And he would talk about pity the young man who has availability to all this capital. Everybody, when they're starting a business, they're like, I want to be like him. I wish I had all this money. If only we had all the capital, we could make this business go. And he goes, it's the opposite way. So, and that's where, to me, Parkinson's law really comes to life, and you can see it, and it's brilliant. But let's say we're on the elevator, it's the 10th floor, and I push the button, I go, tell me what Profit First means if I own a business.
Those doors are opening, so I got seconds.
Yeah.
I would say the traditional approach to profit is sales minus expenses equals profit. Yet, and the SBA has confirmed this, 83% of businesses are surviving check by check. That formula does not work.
Right.
What Profit First is we flip the formula. Mathematically, logically, it's the same, but behaviorally, it's different. It's sales minus profit equals expenses.
Wow.
So what we do in practice is every time revenue comes in, we take your profit, hide it away, and then your business tells you this is the expenses you must work with. That's the essence of Profit First.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, it's transformative. I mean, I have a pretty good sized company now, hundreds of employees and CFOs and a staff full of accountants. And I'm looking at our books right now. And again, the expenses, I find expenses to be like a gas. That no matter what, they will find a way.
There's always a way to spend it.
Right? I mean, you look at the government right now. I mean, we're in the midst of a change of government, and they're trying to cut expenses, and it's like this. It's like the Wicked Witch of the West. I'm melting. I mean, it's just because there's the spending on top of spending on top of spending on top of spending, and then what happens is it becomes institutionalized. And here's what I found in my business. For example, if I keep somebody at probably who's maybe not cutting it anymore, not getting it done or whatever, and I just keep them hanging around, which I've made that mistake. It's not just what they appear on the expense factor, but they will spend more money.
Yeah.
And the reason that happens is we're going, this is the expenses we need to run the business, as opposed to, no, here's the projected income, here's the profit I'm taking, now let's figure it out from there. And like I say, creativity goes out the window. I mean, I have a business that's 29 years old. And so there's parts of my business, I hate to admit, that have been institutionalized, and you have to fight this, and And how do you get back to this entrepreneurial spirit where you do use your creativity? I grew up in Dublin, Ireland. We lived 5 boys and a girl, my grandparents on the weekend, 10 people in a 720 square foot home. And my mother used to say, she go, I love the Lord, but she goes, I do the loaves and fishes trick every single day. And she found a way not only to feed our family, but then she'd feed the neighbors and feed the neighbors' dogs.
Amazing. Yeah.
Right? But she would find a way to make it, and she'd make that money work for her. So how do you go about this? Like, how does somebody who's maybe in a business like we help, where they've got commissions, here's what I think I'm going to make. How do they actually practically do it on a month-by-month basis, take the profit off the table when they're not sure how much is coming in?
Yeah, the variability is, so I'll answer that in 2 parts. One is going back to that, expense burn. we got hired by a publicly traded company, Sarbanes-Oxley compliance is necessary and so forth. And we were still able to implement profit first. Effectively, what we did is we went to the department head. So say this one division does $50 million. Each department does $10 million. We went to the department head and said, you just got a project for, say, $1 million. In the past, we'd say, you got a project for $800,000. We took the 20% off before they were even notified, and they work with the budget. And they were still able to get 10% profit, which they historically have in the past. So now we're getting 30% profit just by not telling them. It's unbelievable how our mind adapts to our situation.
Yep.
So that was the lesson. This applies to companies of all different sizes. Now, what if we have volatile income? Particularly, the most extreme is seasonality. We have some businesses that make all their money in the holiday season. What we do with Profit First is it's a system of bank accounts at your bank, and it must be there. I call it behavioral intercept. Most small businesses, I just spoke with State Farm just a few hours ago. 500 reps were there. They're all independent State Farm agents. I said, how often do you check your bank account? The number one response, 98% daily. I said, perfect. That's what almost everyone does. I said, second question, how many accounts do you have? 97%, one account and a payroll account. They have one primary account. I said, well, that's all your money. That's the whole kit and caboodle. And just like the diamonds, the acres of diamonds, God forbid, now they have it all. What we do is at the bank where they're going naturally, we set up multiple accounts for different purposes. It's the envelope system.
Yes.
So the pay yourself first system now meets the envelope system at the bank. You do the bank because that's what intercepts you. If you have this seasonal business, we'll add another account. We call it the drip. That's the term, but you can name it whatever you want. And I'll give you an extreme example. If you made all your money in 1 month in December and you made $120,000, we put $120,000 in the drip, but then we transfer to recognized income every month in 1/12 of a slice. So $10,000 per month. We normalize the income that way. So for very spiky businesses, you can normalize some of the income.
That's brilliant. Brilliant. Love it. I know that will help a ton of our folks, right, who are dealing with that. And by the way, if you can go back to talk to the State Farm guys, I live in California and they just canceled our insurance. So if you'd let them know, hey, we got a bunch of people in California who would love to get their houses insured.
Yeah. Well, you guys are getting hit hard.
Yep. Yeah. I lost my home in a fire in 2007, and I have great empathy for all these folks and what they're going through.
Yeah.
You talk about this to serve sequentially. As you go through this, I think it's another great concept. Maybe you could share that.
Yeah, for sure. So we set these bank accounts at your bank, and I call them the foundational 5 is an income account. That's where money comes in. Profit account, that's recognition and reward for starting a business, taking risks that no one does. Owner's compensation, which is different. That's payroll for the work you do. In most small businesses, the most important employee is the owner. And Michael Gerber does teach you get working on that business as opposed to in it, but there is a stage you will be in it. We need to pay you for that. Then there's tax responsibilities, and there's the operations of the business. These accounts we put in order, even though they're all percentages, meaning logically, when you divide up money, doesn't matter where they go first. Behaviorally, it matters a lot. So when you receive your income, a deposit today, the first account you fund on a percentage is profit. The reason it gets funded first is there's a dopamine and serotonin release in our brain, probably the most addictive drug in the world. And we're like, oh, this feels good. I see a cash profit accumulating.
Right.
Then you reward yourself. Owners pay your compensation, serotonin, dopamine. Then you pay taxes, which is the owner's tax liability. It's not really a reward, but it does protect you because it covers your tax liability. So it is a sense of reward. The last account you fund is the operations of your business. That's where we feel loss. Oh, I got to spend money. So always have the rewards come first, and it actually builds the behavioral muscle.
That's great. And again, it's not done. As simple as that is.
Yep.
Commingling the funds. I mean, in the self-employed world, for example, in our space, in the real estate and lending space, 50% of all people in that space did not save money for their taxes.
Yeah.
And so what happens is they get their tax bill, they do an extension in April, and then it's all panic for 4 months to try to, fund the extension. Lord knows if they're going to try to fund a retirement as well, like, SEP IRA or something like that.
Yeah, and sales and stuff. And even if you do an extension, your quarterlies are still due. It's not like so these penalties start to pile up. It hammers people.
Well, and then you're owed to the IRS, and then you're under pressure, and then your mind share is not where it needs to be. So this dynamic of paying yourself first, let me ask you this question. If how old is your 9-year-old a daughter today?
She's now 26.
Right. So this was a good experience. So let's say she goes, Dad, I've decided to start my own business. How would you coach her up? Based on profit first, what's her name?
Her name is Adela.
Adela, beautiful name. So how would you coach her up from day one, honey? Here's what I want you to do. Yeah. Here's how I want you to organize it. Here's how I want you to set it up.
First, I would be like, are you sure you want to do this? Because she works for one of my companies. So I'm like, I'm losing a great point. But I would actually be honored if my kids pursued the entrepreneurial dream. Sure. I think it's the ultimate expression of yourself. My first thing would be to discuss about calling, meaning what do you want to do because it's the thing you feel you need to do, not because it generates income, not because you heard it's the next thing, but it's something that it speaks to your heart. Because I found, to our discussion, the ups and downs of the entrepreneurial journey, we all face it. That board member is still in it, I suspect, because of a love or passion, perhaps, for it.
For sure.
But some people, when the money dries up, they say, I'm out of here, and they pursue the money. I always put my bet on someone whose heart's in it.
Yeah.
Secondly, I would just talk about the responsibility of fiscal soundness, that it is a responsibility to be profitable. And it's a shame that it's scrutinized and considered perhaps even to be greedy among some people. I think the ultimate greed is when you're not profitable. Because what you're saying is you're willing to forgo serving your customers, you're willing for your business to collapse and abandon people because you're not profitable. Mm-hmm. Isn't that the ultimate sin?
Right.
Is abandoning people who depend on you.
Right.
So I would talk about that and really drill home the point that you should be proud to be profitable. And then to find the right size business for you. In the media, all over the place in the entrepreneurial space, it's like, oh, if your business isn't bigger, you're not doing it.
Right.
There's this compulsion that bigger is better. And for some people it is, but for a lot of us, it's not. So let the right size business find you.
Right.
If you have 20 employees or 8 or just 2, and that gives you joy, you're nailing it. You are nailing it. Those are the 3 things I talk about.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Brilliant insight. And I think then, I mean, look, we're 29 years coaching small business people, and we see all these entrepreneurial traps. Some people, I feel bored. I don't feel the movement I had early on. So now I'm going to go and try to take on more businesses or offices or this and the other. We see boredom where they get distracted. Things are going almost too good. And they're a person who likes a challenge. And so then they're great at putting out fires. There's no fires, they start one.
Oh my gosh, I've seen that a million times.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you see these different patterns over and over again. But I think profit first. And again, there's no way I can do it justice in the time we have today. I think it's fabulous. And I love the fact that it comes out of this humility and hunger. Okay, here's where I was. And now 20 years later, you've turned it around and now you're helping businesses of all kinds with this principle. Here's the thing. I'm buying copies of this book for my executive team. Okay.
Thank you.
Because, look, I mean, it's very easy. It's a very simple concept to understand, but it is not a natural concept, and it is not something that we default to. And candidly, the other is that expanding the expenses is, and it's only when things get tough do people think about cutting the expenses. So I think it's great. Profit First is brilliant. I highly recommend the book. Please dig in there. And in the time we have left, I have 5 rapid fire questions I ask everybody we've had on. You name who we've had. And, it just gives us a little different insight into you. So let me fire away if you're good to go here.
Yeah.
What's the single best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Was actually not to take advice, meaning I had a business coach and he said, I'm going to tell you what my thoughts are, but don't take my advice because I'm not your customer. He explained an idea I was trying to sell to customers, and he said, you're going to hear a lot of thoughts, but trust wallets over words.
That's brilliant. Wallets over words. Listen to your customer. Not enough of that going on in the marketplace today.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. What one talent or gift do you wish you possessed that you currently don't?
I play guitar, and I wish I could sing because I could then not annoy my family as much.
Well, that's probably the number one of all the people we've talked to.
Singing?
Or perform on stage or play a musical instrument and, kind of wish they hadn't given up on the old piano lessons when they were 9.
Yeah.
What book has been most instrumental in your life, Mike?
I won't say E-Myth because E-Myth has been defining. I would say the book that's been most instrumental has been How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie.
Yeah.
The ultimate self-help, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think it's 100 years old now, that book.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I mean, he was, I think it was actually 1912 he wrote that book.
Oh, wow.
So, brilliant guy. What movie do you watch over and over again? No matter what's on, you're scrolling through the channel, whatever it's on, you stop. What's the one?
Terminator 2. Terminator 2. Yeah, I love T2. It's the best. I don't know why. I do know why. I just love all the action.
Yeah.
The storylines at my level. I can't do deep stories. And it is lots of shooting, tooting.
Yeah.
And Schwarzenegger is the hero of the day.
He's the man. And he's kind of relentless the way you have to be as an entrepreneur. Would you agree?
Yeah, he totally is.
You know?
Totally is.
I mean, that's what you have to be. It's like, I mean, I remember at the bottom of the biggest recession we faced, you had 27 of our competitors went out of business. And I was interviewed years later. And it's like, how did you make it when everybody else did? And I said, it never occurred to me that we weren't going to make it. It never.
You weren't playing Terminator 2 in the background the whole time?
No. But you know what? It's like you just got to be. Like, it just never occurred to me that we weren't going to win. Persevere. I'll do whatever it takes.
I'd love that.
I'll be back.
Yeah, I'll be back.
So last but not least, what does the good life mean to Mike Michalowicz?
The good life means serving my fellow humans at the highest level. I do, my love language is words of affirmation. I love receiving feedback of minor and major shifts, of people getting hope again around finances, or it's so amazing. Sometimes someone fixes their finances and they can then work on their relationships at home.
Yep.
Because they're not distracted by that.
Yeah.
That stuff just lights me up.
Yeah.
That's the good life for me. And I feel I'm living it. I'm blessed.
That's good. Well, it is a good life, and we really have loved having you on here today. The book is brilliant. Profit First is a must. I really believe it's if you're going to have 5 business books, it's got to be one of the 5 as a small business owner. The sign behind you says, small is big biz, and I believe that. Yeah. And, so we're very passionate about that around here. We really want to thank you. I appreciate it. We're going to finish off today. My little Irish mother, 93 years of age, all the way from Dublin, is going to send us off with a nice Irish blessing. She's the first person ever who taught me about paying myself first. She's the first person ever who told me, if you don't pay yourself first, no one's going to pay you second. And so she's been my model and hero for my whole life. And she's going to send us off today with a little Irish blessing, Mike.
May the road rise up to meet you, and may the wind always be at your back. May the rain fall soft upon your fields, and the sun shine warm upon your face. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the hollow of his hand. See you next time.